I was sitting in my usual corner at Bean Brew, the coffee shop 2 blocks from my apartment. My laptop was open, but I wasn't really working. I had my earbuds in, but no music was playing. I just needed the noise to block out the world while I tried to focus on a project that was due next week. The shop was busy, as usual. The hum of conversation blended with the hiss of the espresso machine. I liked it here. It was familiar, safe, or so I thought. That's when I heard it. A laugh. Loud, sharp, and unmistakable. I froze, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Slowly, I turned my head. There she was sitting at a table just behind me, separated by a tall booth divider. She was with her friends, Gladys and Mary. They were all leaning in, glasses of wine in hand, their voices low but carrying. At first, I was going to say hi, maybe join them for a minute, but something in her tone made me stop. So, you're really going through with it? Gladys asked, her voice barely above a whisper but loud enough for me to hear. Patricia laughed again, but it wasn't the warm, bubbly laugh I knew. This was different. Cold. Almost cruel. Of course, Patricia said, her voice dripping with confidence. Brent's so predictable. He's been looking at rings online. I saw his browser history. God, he's such a fool. My stomach dropped. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. But 3 years. Mary sounded uncertain. That's a long time to fake it. Patricia scoffed. Please. The apartment's in his name. I've barely paid for anything. And Jason's place is twice as nice. You should see his car. Jason, her coworker, the guy who'd been showing up in her Instagram stories lately. My hands started to shake, but I forced myself to stay still. What if Brent doesn't propose when you expect? Gladys asked. Patricia lowered her voice, but I could still hear her clearly. Oh, he will. I've got him wrapped around my finger. And when he does, I'm going to let him do it in front of everyone. Get down on one knee, make his little speech. Then I'll laugh in his face and tell him what a pathetic loser he is. Jason's already got our Cabo trip booked for the next day. They all giggled, the sound like nails on a chalkboard. I sat there, my heart pounding, my hands gripping the edge of the table. 3 years of my life, and she'd been playing me the whole time. When's D-Day? Gladys asked. He always does big things at Giovanni's, that Italian place he thinks is fancy, Patricia said, laughing again. I give him 2 weeks max. I've been sending him photos of that princess-cut ring from Somerset Jewelers all week. They kept talking, but I stopped listening. My mind was racing. I pulled out my phone and hit record, holding it just above the table. When they finally left, I watched through the window as they got into Patricia's car, still laughing. She had no idea I'd heard everything. No idea I'd recorded her entire confession. I drove home in a daze, but my mind was already working on what to do next. The apartment lease, our shared accounts, all the evidence I'd need. The rage had turned into something cold and focused. When Patricia came home that evening, I acted completely normal. I asked about her day, listened to her lies about lunch with the girls. She kissed me and said she was thinking about Giovanni's for our anniversary next week. Great idea, babe, I said, smiling. I've been thinking we should do something special. She beamed, probably thinking her plan was working perfectly. If she only knew what I had planned for her instead. The next morning, I woke up early, my mind already racing. I couldn't afford to make a mistake. If I was going to expose Patricia, I needed solid proof. I started with the basics. I created a fake Instagram account, something generic with a random name and a stock photo of a dog. Then I followed Gladys and Mary. They were the type to post everything, every brunch, every cocktail, every late night rant. Within 2 days, I had what I needed. There they were, in a series of photos at some trendy rooftop bar. Patricia was front and center, laughing with Jason, her hand on his arm. In one photo, she was wearing the promise ring I'd given her last Christmas, the ring she'd sworn she never took off. I saved every screenshot, every timestamp. Next, I decided to test her late work meetings. Patricia always worked late on Thursdays, or so she said. That night, I grabbed dinner at a small Thai place near her office. And there she was, Patricia and Jason sitting in a corner booth, sharing pad thai and laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. She was wearing my hoodie, the one she borrowed last week, and never returned. I sat at the bar, ordered a beer, and recorded a few clips on my phone. They were so caught up in their little world, they didn't even notice me. Patricia was literally wiping sauce off Jason's chin while wearing my hoodie. The audacity of this woman. The next day, I ran into Gladys at the grocery store. She looked like she'd seen a ghost when she saw me. Hey, Gladys, I said, smiling like nothing was wrong. How's it going? Good, she stammered, glancing at her cart like it might save her, just grabbing some stuff. Yeah, me too, I said, holding up a bag of coffee beans. How's Patricia? She's been working so much lately. Must be stressful with all those late meetings. Gladys froze. Yeah, super busy. I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo of the engagement ring I'd been planning to propose with. It was just a stock image, but she didn't need to know that. What do you think? I asked, watching her face closely. Her expression went through about 5 different emotions in 3 seconds: shock, guilt, panic, and then a forced smile. It's beautiful, she said, her voice shaky. Thanks, I said, putting my phone away. I think she'll love it. Gladys practically ran out of the store. I knew she'd call Patricia the second she left. Sure enough, my phone buzzed 5 minutes later. Hey, babe, Patricia said, her voice sweet and syrupy. What are you up to? Just running some errands, I said, keeping my tone light. What about you? Oh, work stuff, she said. But I was thinking maybe we should plan something special for the next few weeks. Dinner, just the two of us. That sounds great, I said, smiling even though she couldn't see me. I've been thinking the same thing. After we hung up, I called my friend Jacob. He worked at the same company as Patricia and Jason, but in a different department. Hey, man, I said when he picked up. I need a favor. What's up? He asked. I need to know everything you can find out about Jason, I said, especially if he's married. Jacob didn't ask questions. He just said, give me a day. The next afternoon, he called me back. You're not going to believe this, he said. Jason's married. His wife works in accounting. And get this, he's in the middle of a divorce. Apparently, he's been telling Patricia he's leaving his wife for months. I almost laughed. Patricia had no idea. Thanks, Jacob, I said. I owe you one. Just don't do anything stupid, he said. Don't worry, I said. I've got a plan. Over the next few days, I played the role of the perfect boyfriend. I was extra loving, dropping hints about our future. Patricia ate it up, probably thinking her plan was working perfectly. Yesterday, she even left her phone unlocked while taking a shower. I didn't need to snoop. Her messages with Gladys were right there on the screen. He's totally going to propose soon, she'd written. Everything's perfect. Jason says we can go public right after I dump Brent. I took a screenshot and sent it to myself. Then I booked a table at Bel Rosa, the fancy Italian restaurant downtown. Patricia had been dropping hints about it for months. I knew she'd think it was for a proposal. Her friends all RSVP to come celebrate with us after. Even Jason was planning to be at the bar, coincidentally, to watch the show. Little did they know I had a whole different kind of show planned. The night of the dinner, I put on the blue suit Patricia always said made me look handsome. I even wore the tie she bought me for my birthday last year. It felt like putting on a costume, but I needed everything to look perfect. I picked Patricia up at 7 p.m. sharp. She was glowing, dressed in a sleek black dress and heels that clicked against the pavement as she walked to my car. You look amazing, I said, smiling as I opened the door for her. Thanks, babe, she said, kissing my cheek. You clean up pretty well yourself. The drive to Bel Rosa was quiet, but Patricia kept checking her phone, her fingers flying over the screen, probably texting updates to her friends and Jason. The restaurant was packed when we arrived. Soft lighting, the hum of conversation, the clink of glasses. I spotted Jacob at the bar, right where we planned. He gave me a subtle nod. Patricia's friends, Gladys and Mary, were already at the table, their phones out and ready. They smiled when they saw us, but it didn't reach their eyes. Brent, you look so handsome, Gladys said, her voice a little too high. Thanks, I said, pulling out Patricia's chair. You ladies look great too. We ordered drinks, made small talk. Patricia was practically vibrating with excitement, her eyes darting to my pocket every few minutes. She thought she knew what was coming. Dinner was a blur. I barely tasted the food. Patricia kept dropping hints, talking about how much she loved this place, how romantic it was. It's perfect, she said, sipping her wine. Just like you. I smiled, but inside I was counting down the minutes. When dessert arrived, a shared tiramisu, Patricia's fidgeting reached a new level. She kept glancing at her friends who were pretending not to watch. That's when I stood up. Patricia's face lit up. She thought this was it. I like to make a toast, I said, picking up my wine glass. Her friends immediately reached for their phones. To Patricia, I began, my voice steady, who's been sharing my life for 3 years. She was beaming, her hands clasped in front of her like she was about to receive an award. And who's been sharing her life with Jason from accounting for the last 8 months. The smile froze on her face. I pulled out my phone and hit play. Her voice filled our corner of the restaurant. He's so predictable. I'll let him propose in front of everyone, then laugh in his face. Jason's already got our Cabo trip booked for the next day. The color drained from Patricia's face. Gladys and Mary sat there, their mouths hanging open. What's funny, I continued, is that Jason never told you he's married, did he? Patricia's eyes widened. Yeah, I said, putting my phone down. His wife works in accounting. They're in the middle of a divorce. But I guess he forgot to mention that part. Patricia stood up so fast her chair tipped over. She sputtered, pointing at me. You set me up. No, Patricia, I said, keeping my voice calm. You set yourself up. I just decided not to be your punching bag. She looked around, her eyes wild. The entire restaurant was staring at us now. I turned to Gladys and Mary. Did you know she was planning to humiliate me? Or were you just happy to play along? Mary started crying. Gladys tried to stand up for Patricia. You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I cut her off. Check your phones. I just sent you both some interesting screenshots of Patricia's conversations with Jason. Specifically, the ones where she brags about playing both of us. Patricia lunged for my phone, but Jacob was already there, stepping between us. Don't, he said quietly. That's when she really lost it. You ruined everything, she screamed, mascara running down her face. I had it all planned. Who the hell do you think you are? The manager came over, looking alarmed. Is everything okay here? No, everything is not okay. Patricia shouted, her voice echoing through the restaurant. This loser just humiliated me in front of everyone. Actually, I said, I think you did that to yourself. She turned to the manager, pointing at me. He's harassing me. Call the police? Jacob stepped forward. I think it's time for you to leave, he said to Patricia. The manager nodded, clearly out of his depth. Mom, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down or leave. Patricia looked around, her face red with rage and humiliation. Then she grabbed her purse and stormed out, still screaming about how I'd betrayed her. Gladys followed her, but Mary stayed behind. I didn't know, she said, looking sick. She told us you were controlling, that she needed a way out. She showed us text fake ones, I guess to prove it. I handed her a napkin. She's good at spinning stories. But the truth always comes out, Mary nodded, wiping her eyes. I'm so sorry, Brent. It's not your fault, I said, but maybe next time ask more questions. I paid the bill Jacob insisted on covering half and walked out to find Patricia sitting on the curb, sobbing into her phone, probably calling Jason. Good luck with that. Gladys was trying to comfort her, but she backed off when she saw me. How could you do this to me? Patricia whimpered, looking up at me with tear-streaked makeup. I loved you, she said, her voice breaking. No, I said, looking down at her. You loved what I could give you. There's a difference. I got in my car and drove away. She kept calling and texting all night, switching between threats and begging. I blocked her number this morning. The fallout was swift and brutal. Patricia lost her job the next day. Jason's wife had forwarded their entire text history to HR, and since Jason was Patricia's supervisor, it was a clear violation of company policy. Both of them were fired on the spot. My buddy Jacob, who works in their building, told me Patricia had a complete meltdown in the office. She flipped a desk, he said, laughing, started screaming about how you ruined her life. Security had to escort her out while she was yelling that she'd make you pay. I didn't feel bad, not after what she planned to do to me. The screenshots I collected, the ones where Patricia bragged to Gladys and Mary about playing me for a fool, somehow made their way to our entire friend circle. Not saying it was me, but hey, my finger might have slipped. The best part, her friends turned on her hard. Mary actually came to my place to apologize. I had no idea, she said, looking genuinely ashamed. Patricia told us you were controlling, that you were borderline abusive. She showed us fake texts to prove it. I believed her. It's not your fault, I said. She's good at spinning stories, but the truth always comes out. Mary nodded, wiping her eyes. I'm so sorry, Brent. It's okay, I said. Just don't let her manipulate you again. Gladys wasn't as quick to apologize. She tried to defend Patricia at first, but when the screenshots started circulating, she went quiet. The last I heard, she cut ties with Patricia completely. Patricia tried damage control, but it backfired spectacularly. She showed up at our favorite bar where everyone hangs out trying to tell her side of the story. You don't understand, she said, her voice shaking. Brent set me up. He's the one who. Gladys, who'd been her best friend for years, stood up and cut her off. You're pathetic, she said, her voice cold. And we all see it now. Patricia threw her drink at Gladys, got banned from the bar, and ended up crying in the parking lot while everyone watched. Yeah, not her finest moment. The apartment situation was what really got her, though. We lived separately, but she'd been bragging to everyone about moving in with me after the proposal. She'd already given notice at her place, expecting to move in with me. Now she's crashing on her cousin's couch because no one else will take her in. And with no job, she can't afford a new place. Last week, she showed up at my job site, causing a scene. You owe me for 3 years of my life, she screamed, mascara running down her face. My crew just stood there filming while she had her meltdown. That video's gotten quite a few views on our local Facebook page. Not that I care, but it's kind of satisfying. But here's the real kicker. Remember the ring she thought she was getting? I took that money and booked a solo trip instead. I posted some pics from this amazing beach place in Mexico. Patricia lost it when she saw them. She sent me this long paragraph about how that should have been our vacation money. Oh, and speaking of photos, I met someone. Ramona. She's nothing like Patricia. Actually has her own life, her own career, doesn't play games. We've been seeing each other for a few weeks now. She saw Patricia's latest social media rant about me. Yes, she's still posting and just laughed. Sounds like someone needs a hobby besides stalking their ex, Ramona said. God, I love this woman. Patricia found out about Ramona through Instagram and went nuclear. She started messaging Ramona with warnings about me. Ramona just sent back that video of Patricia's parking lot meltdown and blocked her. The cherry on top, Patricia's parents called me last week. They've always treated me like family, so it was hard to hear the disappointment in their voices. We're so sorry, Brent, her mom said, crying. We raised her better than this. We had no idea she was capable of something like this. It's not your fault, I said. But thank you for calling. Her dad sighed. She's moving back in with us. Maybe some time at home will help her get her head on straight. I didn't say it, but I doubted it. A few weeks ago, I took a solo trip to the beach. I used the money I'd saved for the engagement ring. It felt like reclaiming something, my time, my money, my life. I sat on the sand, watching the sunset, and thought about everything that had happened. 3 years. 3 years of my life wasted on someone who didn't deserve me. But I didn't feel angry anymore. Just free. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking for answers. I was just living.